you guys! The Goonies was definitely among my favorite movies as a kid, and maybe my favorite movie ever. With Spielberg as writer, Richard Donner as director, and a host of aspiring child actors like Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, and Martha Plimpton in the cast, I mean, what's not to love? A group of kids living in Astoria, Oregon set off on an adventure to recover some lost treasure from a centuries-old pirate ship in a cave somewhere so they can save their parents' foreclosed home, all while evading the awful Fratellis. It's incredible. The movie came out in summer of 1985, and then the next year Konami released the video game version in Europe and Japan, but it never came to America for some reason, at least not in cartridge form. Nintendo did release it on their Versus arcade machines and the PlayChoice 10 machines. North America did get Goonies 2, which supposedly serves as a sequel to the movie and released in late 1987 solely on the NES. Let's see what's up with the Goonies games on the Famicom and the NES. Despite never making its way to North America, English speakers need not worry, as the game is completely in English. There's not a ton of exposition here anyway. You start out as Mikey, and all you can do initially is jump and kick. You'll immediately be faced with enemies like large mice or bad guys clad in blue who are supposed to be the Fratellis. You can dispatch enemies with a kick, but later in some levels you'll pick up a slingshot weapon that comes pre-packed with 50 shots and is helpful for taking out other enemies you'll meet along the way like ghosts or skeletons that throw their skulls at you. Using the kick means getting up close to enemies, which often leads to you taking damage. So watch out for that. The purpose of the 6-level game is to blow up doors with skulls on them and find 3 keys. You'll find bombs by kicking the mice, and you can only hold 1 bomb at a time. Walk up to a door with a skull on it and hold down and attack to drop it, but move out of the way. Your own bombs can get you. Once the door explodes, you'll see what's back there. It'll either be a slingshot, some health, a Goonie, or a key. You'll definitely want to find all your Goonie friends trapped behind the doors, because if you don't, you can't get to the end of the game. But you do need to also find 3 keys to advance to the next level. One interesting thing about the game is that each time you play, the items behind the door are randomized, so it's likely a different item each time. The levels are laid out in subsections connected by these doors that look like creepy mouths. The levels can get a little confusing to navigate, as it honestly all looks close to the same. You're descending further and further into the cave system, just like the movie, trying to get to One-Eyed Willie's treasure on the ship. You get 3 lives and no continues. Each level is timed too, so you can lose a life by running out of time, falling down a hole, getting smashed by a rock, or just losing all your health from taking too many hits. When you die, you restart nearly exactly where you died with all the things you found so far, so that's nice. Once you figure out the layout of the maps and how to find every skull door, the game becomes simple. The bulk of the effort will come from finding each door and remembering how to get from one section of a level to another. All in all, it's not a bad time for a Famicom game. It loosely parallels the movie with the level design, seems fair in terms of difficulty, and is actually a little addictive once you get going. The insta-deaths and repeated environs and textures take a few points off this one, but it's worth a playthrough if you're a fan of the movie and platformers. Now for the NES Goonies game we got here in North America. While most would agree a true Goonies game should be a little more than just a simple platformer like the first game, and should have more mystery and adventure about it, well, be careful what you wish for. What you get here with Goonies 2 is a Metroidvania-style game with a convoluted map system and tedious point-and-click interactions. You're still Mikey, and you're all finding your 6 Goonie pals again. The Fratellis have returned to wreak havoc on your neighborhood. They've kidnapped your friends and have hidden them away behind lock and key, and that's not all. They also kidnapped your mermaid friend Annie. No bueno. Wait, who? Most of the game is platforming, and that part isn't bad. You have good movement with Mikey, and it's nice and responsive. As Mikey, you can jump and attack with whatever weapon you have. You start with a yo-yo, which actually turns out to be pretty good most of the time. It's fast and rangy. You can also get a boomerang later that's more lethal, but you know how boomerangs are. You gotta wait for them. The slingshot makes a return here too, but for me, give me the yo-yo. You'll come face to face with fratellis, birds, snakes, more fratellis, spiders, yetis, and even more fratellis. All the while you'll be on the lookout for doors that connect you to other parts of the map. It's kinda sprawling and you can check out the map at any time, but here's the thing. Whenever you enter a door, your view changes to a pseudo 3D point-and-click menu, and that's where the tedium comes in. You have a few options. You can bang on each wall, the ceiling, or the floor with your fist. Great! Or, if you found the hammer, you can do the same thing with the hammer. The crappy part is that hitting the wall with the hammer doesn't guarantee you'll get whatever comes out of it if you hit it with your fist. So, you can hit a wall all day with your hammer seeking a hidden door, but really you just have to hit it with your fist. Same goes for the other way around too. That means, in order to investigate every empty wall, ceiling, or floor in every room, which is something the game kinda trains you to do because you'll find yourself in a number of dead ends trying to find the next area, it takes a long time. Not only that, the people you meet in the game are kinda cryptic and never all that helpful. And one important aspect of the game is to get the candle because many of the rooms in the later parts of the game are unlit and completely dark, leaving you to feel your way around by guessing. Turns out, you're supposed to beat an old woman to death with a hammer in one of the rooms to get the candle. I never did that, because I'm not a psychopath. I only found that out later. Another thing that I wish I had taken advantage of sooner in my playthrough are the shoes. You can get shoes that help you run faster or jump higher, and that can really make a difference in some areas of the game. This is one of those games where taking notes as you play would be helpful. There are a number of doors that lead all around, and sometimes you'll stumble upon a portal that will transport you to a different part of the map altogether, which makes your progress really hard to follow. Another thing is that by going through to the other side and through those doors, it changes the orientation and map. So here on this side, the map looks like this. But if you go through a door, you're basically in a completely different map on this side. It's all confusing because depending on which side of the map you're on, your orientation inside the 3D space changes. So in this direction, pressing up goes through the door ahead, and coming from this direction, pressing up returns you to where you came. That's something you end up learning the hard way after doing it over and over. Eventually, you'll start finding things you need to access different parts of the levels, like a ladder to go up through holes in the ceiling, or gear to go down in the water. Each new area you access gets you closer to finding the next trapped Goonie. As you go, the platforming enemies get stronger and there's just more of them, so it becomes tough, but thankfully, there's no stiff punishment here. If you die, you basically start where you left off, and if you die 3 times, you get a game over, and still start where you left off, just with your yo-yo and no keys. That's another thing. Keys and obviously health are important here, but keys can come from anywhere, so feel free to farm outside an area that needs a key if you don't have one. But yeah, that's the good thing about this one. For all its frustrations and cryptic breadcrumbs to lead you around, it's not too punishing if you mess around and get Mikey killed. There is a password system here too if you can't finish the game in a single sitting, and you likely won't. Truly, this isn't a bad game, but unless you're patient enough to literally try everything in your inventory in every room you enter, you're going to get bored or tired of it kinda fast. For folks who like a point-and-click puzzle adventure, they aren't going to mind it. I would say if you're any notch beneath purist, don't shy away from a walkthrough to keep you going here. The platforming is fun though, like I said, and really the game gets a nod for being ambitious in trying to fuse action and adventure together, and really does so effectively. The music and sound design get a passing grade too, but the tedium of working the D-pad controlled cursor and menus in every room you enter disrupt the flow a little too much for my liking. Between these two, if you're a Goonies fan, you gotta love both. Neither do the movie justice, but what did you expect? In all, you get to solve puzzles underground and save your friends. That's what Goonies do, but the first is a lighter experience, and the second may require you some grid paper and a rainy day to survive. There were no sequels for other Goonies titles to release, however, the MSX version of the Goonies is said to be like the Famicom version, but instead of Mikey, you play a sloth, who looks a lot like Mikey. The levels look a lot different, but if you enjoy the first Goonies on Famicom, this version is probably enjoyable too. Alright, that does it for Goonies and Goonies 2. Never say die, and thanks for watching.